So we're still in the initial kind of setup stages of this project. We've imported our CAD drawing, set up our units. Now we've got our levels in place. We're going to go to grids after this, but before we get to that stage, something that's actually quite important to do early on with Revit is to figure out what scale you're going to be working at. So because we've already kind of discussed what can happen with these level markers here and how they can kind of overlap and get a little bit too large and sloppy, what that's all about, of course, is just figuring out what's going to look right on your sheet. And you're not really going to know what's going to look right on your sheet until that's been created and you've chosen an appropriate scale. So we are very early in the project here, and you might be thinking that this is, not the time for this, but really you want to determine that scale early. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the View tab and we're going to create a sheet. And when we get the new sheet window here, we're not going to see too many options. Typically, you just see this A0 metric. Initially, I'm just going to set up just a generic 11 by 17. You'll see it comes in with the Autodesk sort of pre-made 11 by 17 title block. But we'll go in and we'll make a custom one and kind of swap that out. But we want to just get this going so that we can anticipate what scale we're going to print at. So click on the Load button. And you'll see a title blocks folder down at the bottom. If we double click on that, we only get metric. Now, we actually want to do this for an 11 by 17, so we're kind of jumping into the other set of units here. And to see something relevant, we're actually going to back up a couple steps, and we're going to go into the US Imperial folder. And we'll go into the title blocks folder within that one. And now we've got an 11 by 17. This one has a horizontal sort of orientation here for the title block. So we'll click Open, select that one, press OK, and there's our generic Autodesk title block. And we're going to drag the elevation view that we've just been working on onto the sheet and get a sense for what sort of scale is going to be appropriate for that particular drawing. So use your browser to select the south elevation view and then just drag it onto your sheet. And we need to decide what the appropriate scale is going to be. Now, we don't have the drawing done, or the building drawn yet, of course, so this might be a little tricky to anticipate, but we'll get reasonably close here. Of course, the reason that we're doing this is because all the objects in Revit they're scale dependent. They're kind of like annotative objects back in AutoCAD. So as we change the scale of the drawing, all the symbols, the text, those sorts of things are all going to adjust. So let's say we're reasonably close with that one. You can see at the moment it's set to 1 to 100. And what we'll do is we'll go back to the south elevation view. That's probably not going to be, we're not going to have enough room at 1 to 100. So let's just change this to 1 to 200. And as I mentioned there, you can see that everything adjusts, all the annotative elements adjust, the text and the symbols and such. I'll go back to my sheet view. Double click there. Alright, so that's going to give me a lot more room to work with, so I think I'm going to stick with that. And just a word here about these views when you drag them onto your sheet. This is a little bit counterintuitive, I find, but if you select the overall view, you can move the view and the drawing title around together. You can also just select the drawing title and move it. But you'll often find that the line here, the tail on this title is just a little bit too long. And you can't adjust that unless you select the entire drawing. So select the view here, and then you'll see a grip appear on that title, and you can drag that to a more appropriate size. And there we go. That view is ready to start adding some detail to. So having done that, we've determined what our appropriate scale is for that elevation drawing. 1 to 200 seems to work. We've got it properly placed on the sheet. But next thing we're going to do is work on that title block. Because as I said, we want to do something a little bit more custom. So to do that, first of all, we'll just look at how that's being determined. Of course, you can see in the type selector here, I just get the two that appeared in there by default, the A0 and the 11 by 17. So I'm going to add a new one to that list. And to do that, I'm going to start off with a template for a new title block. And I'm going to click on the application menu, and I go to New Titleblock. There's a special category for this one. So select Titleblock, and initially it'll open up, and you'll probably see that we get a list of metric sizes here again. This little button over here in the Explorer window to the right says up one level. If I just click that a couple of times, then I'll see that I've got an English and an English _I folder. So we want the Imperial one, so this second one. You double click there, and then again there's a Titleblock folder in that one. And there's our template for an 11 by 17. So if you want to see the path for how I got there, this is not actually in the regular library folder. This is just a little different. So within that Titleblock folder is where I find the template for 11 by 17. And that just gives me just a boundary for the edges of the paper. That's actually 17 inches by 11 inches right there. And all I have to do here is really just use three tools. I'm going to use line to create the boundaries. I'm going to use text, and then I'm going to use label. So just like we did back in AutoCAD when we had the attribute title block, we're going to create some static text, so text that won't change whenever it gets used in a project file. And then I'll have some labels, and that's going to be like the attributes that we saw in AutoCAD where we can make changes to that text. So the first thing we have to do is just create the boundaries. So use the line tool and draw up your boundaries with your title block on the right, the 7 sections here that we'll divide, and then put the appropriate spacing between those lines, and then we'll pick it up there. So I'm going to pause this. So to start with, I'm going to use the line tool, and I'm going to select just the rectangle tool here, and I'll trace that entire border there. My temporary dimensions tell me that's 17 inches by 11 inches. And then once I've created that initial box, then I'm just going to go to the Pick Lines tool, and for offset I'm going to specify 3/8 of an inch, or 0.375. I'll come have a look in a second here. Hang on. So there's our set of offset lines, and I'll use the trim tool just to clean those up. Remember, with the trim tool, you select the sides of the line that you want to keep. And then I'll go back and just get rid of those lines I don't need. Delete those, and then I'll just keep creating the different boundaries here. One last thing I'll mention here before I pause this and let you create these regions is that in order to get an outside boundary that's a little more distinguishable from the rest of the drawing, I'm just going to round those edges, just put a little bit of a fillet on them. So I'm going to click on the Create tab and select Line again. And whenever I click on the Line tool, I get the Draw panel. And there's a little tool in here called Fillet Arc. So I'll select that, and then all I have to do here is just click on the first and the second lines in the corner. You can see it's got a temporary dimension that it's tracking as I do this. You could spend a long time waiting for 3/8 of an inch to appear here, or you can just click. It'll just sort of jump to a snap default value here. If you just click on that text, then you can enter the value that you actually want. So a little bit easier than just kind of waiting to see 3/8. So just let it sort of snap to something and then make the change after. Yeah, decimal by decimal it's 375, 0.375. So what I've done here is I've just created just a really simple title block, 11 by 17 of course, and then I've got 7 regions here on my title block. This line here is 2 inches away from this line, so that's my text area here for the title block. The first section at the top is 1.5 inches. Below that, another 1.5 inches. A 2-inch section for the revisions, a 1.5 inch section for the project name, 1 inch for the sheet name. The 1.5 inch area here is for the initials of whoever drew it, whoever checked it, and the date. And then at the bottom, I'm going to have the sheet number. So I'll just delete those so that we're not getting mixed up on what that's all about. And now I'm going to add the text. So I'll click on the Create tab, and I'll go to the Text tool. Remember, this is going to be the static text that doesn't change. So I'll select that, and initially it just wants a placement spot, so I'm going to click in the upper left. This is going to say logo. So I will just type that in. And you can see it's fairly large. I don't need it to be that large. So what I'm going to have to do here is just change the text type. So I'll use my Modify tool. I'll click on that text, and in the Properties window, of course, you'll see what the type, what type it's using here for the text. And I've just got the one here. There's nothing else available in the type selector, so I'll click on Edit Type, and I'm going to make a duplicate of this one. And I'll just go with text note 2, that's fine. Click OK. And now you can see the text or the properties here that are driving that particular type. So I'm going to change the text font here, whatever your choice may be. And I'll change the size. I can make this 1/8 of an inch, which is roughly 2 millimeters. And I'll click OK. And there we've got a much more appropriately sized little bit of text there. So because this is static, it's not going to be bound by any sort of properties or other data like that. I can just copy this one and change the text. So I'm going to just click on it and use my Copy tool. And I'm just going to check a box here for multiple, so I don't have to keep activating the Copy tool. This will allow me to just kind of do a sequence of copies. So I'll click on Multiple, and then I'll just rely on the snap here to the lines and copy that so that I've got 7 total. Sorry, no, a little bit more than that because I've got 3 in this one box. So in this one I'm going to do that copy 3 times. And then I'll just do one more here. I'll make my adjustments here by using the arrow keys just to nudge things a bit if I didn't get that quite properly placed. Okay, and since that doesn't make any sense, I'll make the appropriate text changes. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll add the labels. So there's the text objects all edited. So the top one is for logo. Below that, a stamp, revisions, project name, sheet name. We've got 3 in this area here, drawn by, date, and checked by, and then a sheet number at the bottom. So we need to have some text in here that will be editable when we use it later on in another project in an RVT file. And to do that, we need to create a label. So we'll click on the Create tab, and we'll go to the Label tool. And it looks a lot like the Text tool initially. I just make an initial selection point here, and then I'll see this Edit Label table pop up. And oh, hang on a second here. Let's back that up. We don't need any labels for this particular section here. We want to just drop down to project name. That's where it's going to be relevant. So I'll back up here. I'll click on the Create tab again, Label, make the initial placement point here, and this of course is project name. So what we do is we look for a corresponding parameter here on the left, and there we see our project name. And we're just going to use this little button in the middle to populate this list here with that particular parameter. So click on the Add Parameter to Label, and that's all we have to worry about right now. Just click on OK. And there you can see project name appears. So that will be editable. We might as well make it match the other text styles that we've been using in this particular file. So let's just click on it. And it's being driven by this particular type. We'll make changes to that one by clicking on Edit Type, making a duplicate, and we'll call this one, we'll just go with tag 2. And now we can just make the changes here to the font and the size like we've done before. And this one, it's at a 1/4 inch. That seems to be about right. It might make things a little bit tight. It's not a lot of room to record a project name, but we're only going to put something like, ARC 360 assignment 3 or something like that in here, or just assignment 3. So we won't worry about having too much space. We'll go with the 1/4 inch. We'll click OK. And there you go. There's the label for the project name. So we'll do the same thing with these other ones for sheet name and these other 4. So we'll click on the Create tab. We'll click on Label. This one is going to be placed right here below the text that says sheet name. And we'll look in the parameter list for sheet name. And we'll add the parameter to the label. And we'll click OK. And we'll just make an initial sort of type change here. Switch it to tag 2. And then continue to do that for these other ones. So I just finished off the last of the labels there. I've got one for project name. I've got one for sheet name. Those both happen to be from the same tag type, so you can see that the text is the same size. And I made an additional tag for these smaller entries here. This one being drawn by, this is an 1/8 of an inch, and then there's a date stamp parameter. This will automatically synchronize with your computer's clock, so you don't have to worry about entering that one when you use it in a project. And then I've got one for check by, again at 1/8 of an inch, and then I made a new type for this tag so that it would display at 3/8 of an inch, and that's the sheet number. So that's my title block. The last thing I might want to do here is just insert something in the logo. And I can just do that like I would in a project environment. If I just click on Insert and go to Import CAD, in this case, I'll just use a CAD, a DWG file. And let me just navigate to that. It's probably going to come in at the wrong scale, but luckily this is a fairly easy object here to edit, so I can just use the regular scale tool on this. And I'll just do it sort of in real time here, get it to be something a little bit more appropriate, and move it into place. Remember, if you're going to insert a logo, you're better off doing something that is vector-based, meaning that it's an AutoCAD drawing or like an Adobe Illustrator file. If you're using something that's raster-based or pixel, you're just going to run the risk here of having some kind of noisy, not so sharp graphics here in your logo section. So there's our title block. Last thing we're going to do here before we load into the project is save it, of course. So I'll click on the application menu, save as. This is going to be a family. And I would just put this in your title block folder so that it's accessible for other projects. So I will go to C and Program Data, Autodesk, drag down to the bottom for RVT 2014, and I will go into Libraries, and I'll make this one US Imperial since I don't have an Imperial folder for the Canada section. So US Imperial, I'll drag down to the bottom to Title Blocks, and there's that original 11 by 17 that we started off with. So this one's just going to be called my custom 11 by 17. And I'll save it and load it into my project. Find the appropriate RVT file. And just like before, it's not going to look like anything's happened because we're not in this particular project looking at a sheet view at the moment. So what we need to do, of course, is just go down to our one sheet view. It'll still have that generic Autodesk title block in it, but now all we have to do is just select that title block, and now in the type selector we should see the one that we just created. So just swap that out. There's our custom title block, and we're ready to start doing some modeling.